Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Crop propagation. Propagation is the formation of new plants or the multiplication of individual plants. There are two major methods of crop propagation. They are the sexual propagation and the asexual or vegetative propagation. The sexual propagation is propagation by means of seed. A seed here is a fertilized ovule enclosing a tiny plant and the food necessary for its germination. It is therefore a living but dormant plant. A seed will germinate to produce a new plant when given all the right conditions. The use of seeds is known as sexual reproduction because male seeds result from the fusion, that's the union or joining together of the male and female sex reproductive cells, usually from two reproductive parent plants. Now, talking about the asexual or the vegetative propagation. This is propagation by means of vegetative organs. For this reason, it is sometimes called vegetative reproduction. In some crops that do not produce viable seeds, it is the only means of propagation. In certain other crops, it is used because it is easier than growing plants from seed. Crops which may be propagated vegetatively include banana, pineapple, cassava, sugarcane, plantains, onions, etc. Some crops that can be propagated sexually and asexually are the citrus, the guava, mango, rubber, and cola. I hope we all understand that by vegetative propagation, we mean the use of the parts of plants instead of their seeds to produce new plants. Talking about the advantages and disadvantages of the different methods, that's the advantages and disadvantages of the sexual propagation and also the asexual or vegetative propagation. In the sexual propagation, there are many advantages for using seeds to propagate a crop. They include 1. Seeds are easy to carry from place to place. Seeds are also easy to sow, more so as they can be drilled into the soil with seed drills or planters. Seeds also store well after they have been dried to reduce their moisture content. That must, however, not be too dry so that they remain alive. Another advantage is that seeds, when stored, can remain alive for a long time till they are planted. Increase in plant population can easily be achieved by the use of seeds. Horticultural crops grown from seed live longer than those propagated by asexual means. Seedlings are easier and cheaper to raise from seed. In most field crops, propagation by seed is the only economic and practical method, and also rootstocks are mostly grown from seed, without which budding and grafting cannot be done. The disadvantages of propagation by seed are 1. By using seeds for propagation, the farmer reduces the quantity of seeds that will be available for consumption. Plants that are sown from seeds never grow up to look exactly alike. They always show different characteristics of their parents or even grandparents. Many seeds do not germinate easily due to dormancy. Also, plants grown from seeds take a longer time to produce fruits. Some plants produce very few seeds. Seed germination may also be poor. And lastly, plants grown from seeds are not always uniform in growth, maturity, yield, and other characters. Talking about the advantages of asexual or vegetative propagation, the use of vegetative propagation can assure retention of resistance to diseases and pests of the original plants. Plants that are growing under adverse soil and weather conditions, when they are vegetatively propagated, perform better than their counterparts that were raised from seeds. Vegetative propagated crops mature faster and yield higher than those raised from seeds. For instance, vegetatively propagated cocoa starts to bear fruit in 18 months to 2 years, whereas those produced from seeds take 4 to 5 years to bear fruit. Some plants can only be reproduced asexually as they produce either no seeds or unviable seeds. Crops that are vegetatively propagated normally have uniform yields, similar crop quality, and come into bearing, that is fruiting, early and at the same time. And also, another advantage of vegetative propagation is that they produce offspring which are similar to the parents in all their characters. Talking about the disadvantages of vegetative propagation, in the case of crops like cassava, some of the cuttings could readily spread the most dreaded disease of cassava mosaic virus if the parent stalk, that is the cassava stem cuttings in this case, shows up or is manifested in the new offspring parents. It is therefore very important that only matured, healthy, disease-free, and vigorous parent plants are used for vegetative propagation. New plants may not grow uniformly if some of them are planted on poor soil. Another disadvantage is that vegetative propagation is generally more expensive than the use of seeds because the planting materials, for example stem cuttings, are usually bulky. They are not easy to transfer or carry from place to place, and moreover, they are not easily stored, and they also require a lot of space for their storage. Budding and grafting require special skills. And lastly, vegetative propagation does not allow improvement in genetic characteristics of plants. Treatment of seed for planting. In order to ensure good seed germination and seedling establishment in the field or nursery, certain measures must be taken. They include the pre-soaking of seeds, scarification of seeds, and chemical dressing of tubers against pests and diseases. In the pre-soaking of seeds, this is the soaking of seeds in water to soften the seed coat so that it absorbs water. And when planted in the field, the seed germinates faster. A simple and effective way of testing viability is by flotation. Here, the seeds to be planted are soaked in a bowl of water and allowed to settle for about 30 minutes. The good seeds will settle at the bottom of the bowl, while the bad ones will float on the surface and can be easily removed. Some of us who separate beans, that's the good beans from the bad beans, must have come across this flotation, in that even after collecting the good ones, mistakenly some bad ones are still inside. When you've soaked it in water, you find out that those hidden bad ones come up and you can now easily remove them. In the scarification of seeds, this is a process of breaking the seed coat so that the embryo can easily absorb water and oxygen when it is planted. This is aimed at softening the seed coat and thereby quickening germination. In the chemical dressing of tubers against pests and diseases, seeds must be dressed with seed dressing chemicals before planting. This is to protect them from soil-borne pests and diseases. If seeds are not treated, they can be attacked by soil fungi, and this will cause them to rot and fail to germinate. They may also be attacked by soil-borne insects and other organisms. Some seed dressing chemicals in Nigeria include the Adrex T, the Fenasan D, the Adrin dust for seed yam. All chemicals are toxic to a certain degree. You should therefore strictly obey the directions on the packet when using any chemical. Asexual propagation methods. The most common methods used in vegetative or asexual propagation methods are cuttings, division of underground stems, suckers, layering, budding, and grafting. Cuttings are when parts of a plant are cut into portions and planted to produce new plants. Cuttings may come from stems or leaves, depending on the type of plant being propagated. We have stem cuttings, root cuttings, leaf cuttings. In stem cuttings, plants whose stem produce roots fairly quickly are generally propagated by stem cuttings. Examples include hibiscus, coffee, cola, cocoa, sugarcane, and cassava. In root cuttings, the use of root cuttings as a method of propagation is limited. But an important economic tree, the breadfruit, can be successfully grown from lengths of roots up to 40 centimeters in length, which are planted horizontally in nursery beds. And in leaf cuttings, the detached leaves of many plants can be induced to form roots, but only a few will develop in the absence of a pre-existing auxiliary bud. Talking about underground stems, many crops are propagated from underground stems, which are either planted whole or cut into portions. During active growth, these crops store considerable quantities of food in their underground stems. Each stem bears one or more buds, which are basically similar to the foliage buds, which occur at the ends of the branches above the ground. We have 5 main types of underground stem, which are the culms, stem tubers, the rhizomes, and the bulbs. Suckers. Suckers are shoots which normally develop from the base of a plant. Many crops like bananas and plantains are propagated this way. Suckers usually contain large quantities of food reserve and can survive for some time before being planted. The pineapple is a fruit which is normally propagated from suckers. The suckers may be removed from the base of the plant or from the axis of the leaves. Basal suckers root more rapidly than suckers obtained from the shoots or slips produced in the axis of the leaves. We also have layering. Layering is a method of vegetative propagation in which plant parts are made to develop roots while they are still attached to the parent plant. We have 6 types of layering. They are the simple layering, the mound or stool compound layering, the serpentine or the compound layering, air compound layering, the tip layering, and the trench layering. Budding. Budding is a method of removing the variability in plant propagation, which is a characteristic of sexual propagation by seeds. Budding has proved successful with tree crops, especially citrus. Budding is usually carried out at the beginning of the raining season. The most widely used method of budding is the inverted T method. A T-shaped cut is made with a budding knife in the back of the stalk plant about 20 centimeters above ground level. Grafting. Grafting is closely related to budding and is a method which involves the application of a whole shoot or stem into another plant. That is, the stem is also known as the scion and the other plant is known as the stalk. Grafting brings into close contact the vascular cambia of both the scion and the stalk. As in budding, both the scion and stalk must be closely related to avoid incompatibility, which could result in the breaking of the scion from the stalk at a later date. The basic grafting operation is similar to that of budding, although there are many variations. We also have the bulbils. Bulbils are unusual vegetative growths that appear on plants. A bulbil-bearing yam, also known as a Dioscorea bulbifera, produces bulbils in the axils of the leaves. Some water yams also bear bulbils. These bulbils are rich in stored food so that when planted they eventually produce a new yam plant.